Hey there nation, welcome to the show. We help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Tales from the Tackle Zone. This is our series of weekly Blood Bowl battle reports, and this is game number 7, the championship game of our very first pilot season of Blood Bowl battle reports. So we have gone through 6 epic games between 4 different teams, and now we've come to the championship game of our league. This game is fought between Dark Lord Mac as well as myself. Dark Lord Mac is bringing the Skaven Blight Scramblers, and I am bringing the Gouged Eye Orcs. Both of our teams are the 2 leading teams with the league points of our league, so because of that, these 2 will be throwing it down at a good old-fashioned grudge match out on the Blood Bowl pitch for blood, glory, and honor to hold the championship for our game. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this one, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Alright, so let's go and talk about the championship game real fast. In case you're unfamiliar with how Blood Bowl works. In the Blood Bowl, there are 2 halves of the game, just like there is in a normal game of American football. Each half consists of 8 turns for each team on both sides, and obviously whoever has the most touchdowns by the end of the game is the one who's going to be declared the winner. So that being said, let's go and get this battle part rolling. And because this is a championship game, as you can see here, here's a close-up of all the savage orcs who have come to watch the entirety of the game, to watch the Gouged Eye try to go for and vie for the championship for the game. As you can see, they're occupying a ruined series of buildings because we're playing right now at Skaven Blight Scrambler's home turf. So because of that, as you can see, there's a lot of sewers and slime pits and all kinds of stuff around the battlefield because, let's face it, we're playing underground. Who really wants to play in a sewer? The Skaven do, apparently, but orcs, they don't care. So you can see they're kind of inhabiting the ruins there. And the background, you can see O'Reilly Hall, which is the top there, which is our announcer's booth for our battlefield. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, as you can see, we have the Skaven as well as demonic fans for the Nurgles, for the Demons of Nurgle for this one. Unfortunately, my studio does not have a lot of Skaven miniatures, so we only have a very few amount of Skaven models. However, because Skaven are so closely aligned with the Chaos Plague of Death, the plague god of diseases and death, we decided that Nurgle would be more than happy to put some audience members in the stands. That way you can see. And you can see the Slime River there on the right-hand side because we are playing underground in the sewers of Skaven Blight. So that being said, let's go and talk about the very first half of the game. Alright, so that takes directly to the kickoff of the first half of the game. As you can see, it ends up being a riot for the very first kickoff. So because of that, everybody loses 1 point of their turn for this one. So everyone loses a turn as the audience just try to get everybody settled down, which makes perfect sense. Orcs are in audiences, so orcs are known to riot whenever a game occurs. So that ends up happening for that one. So because of that, Gorilla Man ends with the kickoff. The Skaven team will be receiving the kickoff on this one. And as you can see, the ball's final destination lands right smack in the middle between the 2 different members of the Skaven throwers in this one. So right off the bat, pretty good things going on for this game. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Skaven because they're the ones receiving the ball, and let's get this match going. Alright, so that takes directly to Skaven turn 2, and this is overhead shot of the entirety of the Blood Bowl pitch. As you can see, not much really happens because tragedy strikes the very first turn of this game. Monstak, which is a Skaven player who is one of the throwers, tries to move up in order to pick up the ball, but unfortunately he fails his pickup check. He fails the agility test to pick up the ball. Now he does have the sure hand skill, so because of that he is able to re-roll it again, but unfortunately he failed that. And then to make matters worse, my buddy, Dark Lord Mac, he decides to burn up one of his re-rolls in order to pick up the ball, and he still fails it. So because of that, the ball fumbles over to the upper left-hand corner, and the ball completely fails him on that part. So you can tell right off the bat this game is coming off for a really good start. And as you can see here, here's a close-up Monstak just failing to pick up the ball 3 times in a row, ending the drive for turn number 2 for the Skaven Blight Scramblers. Alright, so with a cheer in the air, we go to turn number 2 for the Orcs of the Gouged Eye. So first of all, my troll, Toothgut Bunk Smasher, manages to push back Scalpific, the Rat Ogre. Not only does it manage to push him back, also going to knock him down as well. Kind of treeing up the center line for the game so far. And of course, my troll follows through because why wouldn't he? However, this game is also pretty short-lived. As you can see, not much really movement takes place because what ends up happening is that one of my linemen, his name is Golrod One-Eyed, he's actually one of my Black Orc blockers. He tries to throw a block directly into one of the Skaven lineman Ichcaster the Burnt, and they both get a both down result as well, which is really, really bad for me. So things are not off to a very good start for me either this game. And here's a close-up. As you can see, that Toothgut Bunk Smasher pushes back and tries to knock down Scalpific, which is really awesome. At the same time, you can see the top there, close with Golrod One-Eye, one of my Black Orc blockers, trying to throw a block into Ichcast the Burnt, ending up with a both down result as well, which is all kinds of tragic. So with that being said, it causes immediate turnover. We go directly to turn number 3 for the Skaven. Alright, so it takes directly to Skaven turn number 3 on this one, and this drive is actually pretty dramatic. First of all, Monstak, he managed to pick up the ball finally, and not only does he manage to pick up the ball, but he also manages to pass a pretty short pass directly to Skaven player Toxiad, which is actually one of the Gutter Runners. He was located there in the bottom wide zone there. He managed to catch the ball, making a really good pass, so because of that, both of them score a star player point as well. And as you can see, Toxiad, the Gutter Runner, just kind of goes for it, moves over 9 squares over to the right-hand side, falling along the edge there, the border between the wide zone, heading directly to the end zone for the Gouged Eye, which is all kinds of bad as well. Now, the rest of the game, of course, tries to unfold when it ends up with that one of the blitzers. His name is MMH, tries to throw a block directly into Face Skull Badax, who's right there on the bottom of the wide zone. Dark Lord Mac made that run in order to try to stop my lineman from catching up with his Gutter Runner. Unfortunate for him, though, it ends up that his attacker gets knocked down, so because that MMH gets knocked down, and of course, immediately ends the drive for Skaven turn number 3. So here's a close-up of Toxiad running as quick as he possibly can, as fast as the little Skaven Heart can carry him, as he makes his way directly to the Gouged Eye end zone. You can see the Plague Bearers are cheering him on. At the same time, the rest of my linemen are standing there kind of dumbfounded, watching as he slips through my lines. And here's a close-up of MMH charging directly into Face Skull Badax, but unfortunately he fails the attack and he gets knocked down instead, which is all kinds of good for me. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Orcs. And as you can see on the bottom of the wide zone there, a lot of action took place during Orc turn number 3 for this drive. So first of all, I decided to start sending a lot of my players down to the bottom wide zone in order to intercept, because let's face it, the last thing I need is another Skaven guys getting a touchdown the very first half of the game. So you can see there are a couple of my troops go down there to the south in order to try to stop them. First of all, one of my blitzers, blitzers named is Chrome Grub the Ripsnort. He managed to blitz directly into Toxiad and actually gets a both knocked down result. But luckily for me, though, Chrome Grub Ripsnort is a blitzer. He has the block skill, so because of that, he is perfectly fine. Toxiad, however, is not so lucky. He's actually shoved directly into the crowd, who ends up in it. You know, the Plague Bearers actually beat him up, which is actually kind of weird. But he gets beat up, and because of that, he gets thrown right back into the pitch, ends up with a stun result. So he's laying face down the ground as the seeing little Skaven Blight monsters swirling around his head like birds and stars and stuff. Now the ball does fumble, of course. The ball actually fumbles over to the right-hand side, and one of my throwers, Ugrag the Slaughterer, he actually moves over to pick up the ball, and as you can see, the rest of the team also just kind of adjusts accordingly in order to make the drive. Alright, so here's a close-up there of Chrome Grub Ripsnort throwing Toxiad directly into the crowd and stunning him. At the same time, you can see one of my throwers, Ugrag the Slaughterer, picking up the ball. Since he moved, he wasn't able to throw it because you only get one action, so there's a close-up of that. At the same time, here's a close-up of my blocks I'm running right there in the middle of the screen. The reason why I'm doing that is because what I'm trying to do is try to open up the bottom wide zone, as well at the same time the bottom half of the line of scrimmage, so that way I can slip through my next turn and hopefully exploit and try to defeat them at the same time. So with that being said, Orc turn number 3 is over on my drive. We go directly to the top of Skaven turn number 4. And here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the pitch after the end of Skaven turn number 4. As you can see, no turnovers result because of any actions that took place per se, but for the most part, he's just throwing blocks as well as moving his Skaven players over to the bottom wide zone. As you can see, the bottom wide zone was kind of left open for me to kind of exploit if I could, so he moves a lot of his guys. He moves a lot of his blindmen as well as his blitzers to get into blocking positions in order to latch up my linemen as well as my blitzers. He also throws a block at the top of the screen as well, and as you can see in the very top right-hand corner, he actually manages to slip through one of his Gutter Runners, Scythe of Skaven Blight. He kind of loops around there on the top of the wide zone and starts heading down behind my lines, heading directly towards the bottom wide zone, which makes kind of sense because I got to be careful of that Gutter Runner because he is slick enough in order to slip through my lines, and he might be able to mess up my play, so I got to keep an eye on that one for the most part. And that pretty much makes up turn number 4 for the Skaven on this one. So as you can see, here's a close-up of, as you can see, all of his linemen and blitzers are in perfect blocking positions in order to take out my troops along the line of scrimmage. Makes good sense, so that way I can't exploit it and hopefully won't be able to slip through too easily. And here's a close-up of the same thing at the very top of the screen as well. As you can see, he's got his troops moved directly into my tackle zone, so that way I can't move, at the same time trying to cause some problems. And there's another close-up of Scat the Skaven play as he slips through the lines and makes his way directly to the bottom where the ball is located at. Alright, so that takes directly to Orc turn number 4, and this photo is taken after the turn. As you can see, my team moves in order to get in a blocking position in order to open up a hole, and as you can see there, we do exactly that as well. First of all, Gabruk Gutwrencher, who's actually one of my blitzers, he actually slips the line, as you can see there, between the bottom wide zone as well as the center of the pitch. There's a nice little opening as my Orc players push and block Skaven players out of the way, so that way it creates that gap. So because of that, Gabruk Gutwrencher, my blitzer, moves through the entirety of the line as well. While that's occurring, Uzdek the Loon, who actually has the ball, throws the ball directly to one of my other throwers, whose name is Snip Ripper Facebeater, who's right there in the middle of this pitch. He catches the ball, and it ends up being a good, so they both get star player points for competing a pass. And then finally, Snip Ripper Facebeater throws a pretty long, actually long distance throw directly to Gabruk Gutwrencher, my blitzer with the blue hair, and he manages to catch the ball as well, ending up a completion on that part, and pretty much ends my drive as well. Any Orc player that was able to push and block has already done so. I was basically saving up my action for the passes that took place. So I went from one thrower to another thrower directly to my blitzer, and now he's got the whole end of the pitch that's completely wide open for him to make it directly to the end zone. And so things are working pretty good so far for the Gouge die. So here's a close-up of the bottom part of the line of scrimmage. As you can see, my Orcs managed to push back players or managed to knock them over in order to create that gap there in the bottom of the screen, as well as doing exactly the same thing at the top of the line of scrimmage there. So you can see there, right in the border between the wide zone as well as the center of the field, it just made a perfect gap for me to slip through as well to exploit as well. And he's making his way directly to the end zone. And finally, here's a close-up of my blitzer, Gabruk Gutwrencher, as he catches the ball. It was really 2 complete passes, which is amazing, and also he's just wide open to make it directly to the end zone. So that being said, that pretty much ends the draft, and for Orc turn number 4, we go directly to turn number 5 for the Skaven. And as you can see for turn number 5 for the Skaven, not much really happens, and the reason why is because one of his throwers, Plague Rule the Infected, he does try to just escape from one of the blocking zones from the Orcs, tackle zones from the Orcs in order to try to intercept my blitzer. He tried to pull a blitz, but he had to dodge because he was in the tackle zone of another Orc player. Unfortunately for him, though, he does fail that dodge, so he goes crashing to the ground and pretty much ends the drive for Skaven turn number 5. And here's a close-up of Skaven player number 1, Plague Rule the Infected, as he tries to dodge out of the way of one of my linemen. He fails that one, of course, and he goes slipping and crashing to the ground as well. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 5 for the Orcs. And as you can see in this photo, it's a pretty simple turn because only one thing happened this turn. That was Gabruk Gutwrencher making all the way to the end zone, actually going for it once in order to make sure he gets across the line and scoring himself a touchdown. And touchdown number 1 for the Gouge die as Gabruk Gutwrencher makes it all the way to the end zone and manages to score a touchdown. Not only does he earn a point for my team as well, but he also earns a star player point for making that wonderful, wonderful playthrough as he slipped to the main line and also managed to get the score as well. So that being said, we reorganize our teams for both Dark Lord Mac and myself. We get into our positions and get ready for a kickoff as I kick the ball and punt it directly to the Skaven Blight Scramblers. Alright, so it takes directly the kickoff on this one. I punt the ball, and for the result, we got brilliant coaching on this one. And luckily for me, I actually had a higher fame factor than my opponent, Dark Lord Mac, did, so I get to manage to get a additional reroll for my team, which is all kinds of awesome at the same time. So the kick is good, and the ball goes flying through the air. As you can see, it lands directly up to the top of the middle portion right there, just one block away from Monstak the thrower, and ends up being another good position for my buddy Dark Lord Mac to pick up the ball and to begin play. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 6 for the Skaven. Alright, so we end up with turn number 6 on that one. So Monstak moves and manages to pick up the ball correctly this time on the very first try, and because that, he starts moving his way up directly up to the top of the screen as well, moving as quickly as he possibly can in order to start, causing some problems in the middle of the field there. While that's occurring as well, one of the other Skaven players, his name is lineman named Morden the Keeper, he's one of his blitzer. He tries to throw a block directly into Ugrag the Slaughter, ends up with the result being both knocked down, so they both go crashing to the ground, pretty much as the drive on that one. So here's the bottom of the close-up. You can see there Monstack is trying to move as quickly as he can to the bottom of the wide zone, carrying the ball and trying to move as quickly as he can. At the same time there, you can see the little close-up there of Morton, the keeper, who's one of his linemen, tries to throw a block directly into Ugrag the Slaughter, which is one of my Black Orc blockers. It ended up with a both attacker knockdown result, but because my Black Orc's got the block skill, he's perfectly fine. His lineman not so much, and that immediately ends the drive for turn number 6 for the Skaven. So we go directly to Orc turn number 6. As you can see in this photo, pretty much not that much dramatic movement going on for the most part. Once again, I'm starting to send my blockers directly to the bottom of the screen, as you can see there, because that's where the Skaven are trying to exploit the bottom wide zone. I throw some blocks. I also throw some pushes. Manage to push a couple of Skaven player and knock them over in order to make exploit that gap. And once again, I do manage to bust up a line right there between the wide zone as well as the center of the pitch, so that way I can exploit it through. The last thing I end up doing, because I've opened up that gap, I decided to blitz with Ugrag the Slaughter, my Black Orc blocker. He actually slips through the lines and manages to go directly into Monstack and manages to knock him over as well, cause the ball to scatter. As you can see there, the ball scattered just one space to the bottom, right beneath Ugrag the Slaughter. So as you can see here, there's a close-up of that action taking place as Ugrag the Slaughter just kind of manhandles Monstack and throws him to the ground, also causing the ball to scatter one space over as well. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 7 for the Skaven Blight Scramblers. And as you see this photo, the worst thing ends up happening. My opponent decides to blitz. He activates one of his linemen named Bubunik of Putrid Stump. He decides to throw a blitz directly into Ugrag the Slaughter. Unfortunately, ends up being an attacker down for him, so because of that, his little Skaven Blight Scrambler smashes directly with my Black Orc block and realizes that since it's a Black Orc, he's made of sterner stuff, and he gets knocked right back again. And as you can see there, there's a little close-up there of Bubunik. This Putrid Stump tries to throw a blitz directly into Ugrag the Slaughter, and things do not work out pretty well for him at all. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 7 for the Orcs. And at turn number 7, Ugrag the Slaughter, he moves down this one square to pick up the ball and managed to pick it up. Now, a problem with him is that his agility is really, really low, so because I had to roll a 5 up for him to pick up the ball, I failed the very first time, so I decided to use one of my rerolls, and the reroll was good, so I managed to pick up that ball as well. So because of that, he just kind of follows through, just kind of moves up forward. As you can see, they're moving up his other 4 additional spaces because he's a Black Orc blocker and they don't move very quickly. And just to make sure that nothing bad ends up happening for him, I then activate Gut Wrenchers, who are actually one of my blitzers. He throws a block directly to Toxiad and actually pushes him directly into the crowd. And unfortunately for Toxiad, he ends up rolling a death injury on that one and he gets killed. So here's a close-up of Ugrag the Slaughter as he's running as quickly as he can along the bottom edge there, trying to make his way to the end zone to score another touchdown. And there's a nice little vacant spot where a gutter runner named Toxiad used to be at. And there he is inside the dugout, Toxiad, the Gutter Runner. He was actually a really important player for the Skaven Blight Scramblers. Did quite a bit for him this season, but unfortunately for him, though, he got pushed into the crowd and they all took their Plague Swords and stabbed him to death. So because of that, Toxiad is now dead and will no longer be part of our league. All kinds of tragic for my opponent. So with that, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 8 for the Skaven on this one. And as you can see, the very last play, they just tried to send in Plague Rule the Infected. The thrower actually tries to blitz directly to Ugrag the Slaughter. Unfortunately, though, when he tries to throw it, he actually gets an attacker down result. Originally, it was actually both players knocked down is what ended up happening. But what ended up happening is that my friend Dark Lord Matt decided to use one of his rerolls in order to make sure he can get another one. And when he rolled, it ended up with an attacker down result instead. So because of that, Plague Rule the Infected gets knocked over, and Ugrag the Slaughter is completely fine. And here's a close-up of Ugrag the Slaughter, just kind of shrugging off the blow that Plague Rule the Infected tried to give him, and that pretty much ends the first half for the Skaven Blight Scramblers. And for the final action for the Gouged Eye turn number 8, Ugrag the Slaughter decides to go for it. He moves his movement allowance and actually goes over one more square over to get directly to the end zone, and touchdown number 2 for the Gouged Eye Orcs. So now I finally ended the first half of the game with 2 touchdowns as opposed to the Skaven Blight Scramblers, who have 0 at this point. So once again, Dark Lord Mac and I once again line up our teams for a kickoff, and we go directly to the halftime. So with that being said, we're going to take a little break here for the halftime show. You can see exactly what the current score is. Enjoy the music while we set up for the second half of the game. Alright, so with that being said, we do go once again to our second half of this game, and we'll be receiving the ball in the second half of the game, and the kickoff ends up being a changing weather result. So we're off on the changing weather result, ends up being a nice result once again, so it's another beautiful day to keep on playing Blood Bowl and the Suri underdepths of the Skaven Blight. So because of that, what that requires is that the ball will actually bounce one more time in a random direction when the ball finally comes to its final destination. So the kickoff is good, and the ball lands, I think, about 2 squares away from the line of scrimmage, actually. So it ends up right in the middle of his formation for his team, which is actually quite advantageous for my buddy Dark Lord Mac. He's been getting a lot of good results from the kickoff results, so it ends up being pretty good for him as well. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 1 for the second half of the game. Alright, so that takes directly to this game in turn number 1. As you can see here, not much really happens because Mondstack moves up to pick up the ball. Unfortunately, he fails it twice, failing the very first time and also failing his sure hands result as well. My buddy Dark Lord Mac decides not to use one of the rerolls, so because of the ball fumbles 1 square over to the right hand side, and that pretty much ends the very first drive for turn 1 for the Skaven. And once again, that takes directly to the top of turn number 1 for the Orcs, and this photo is taken after everything is pretty much done. So you can see for the most part, I just pretty much just moved up my Orcs as much as I quickly can. Nothing really dramatic really happened. I had 1 knockover from my blocks, but most of my results ended up being pushes. So all I really did is just kind of sent all my Orc players forward in order to get into blocking positions to make sure the Skaven Blight Scramblers can't slip through and exploit anything on their way to my portion of the end zone. And that pretty much makes it Orc turn number 1. So here's the bottom of Orc turn player number 1. As you can see here in the bottom, I've kind of much pushed back both of his Skaven Blight Scramblers so they really can't slip through. However, I do have to worry because one lineman is by himself at the very end of the wedge zone, but, you know, them's the breaks, I guess. You really can't block everybody, I suppose. And here's a close-up of the center line of scrimmage. As you can see, I've actually kind of opened up a little hole there, and I actually set one of my blitzers around the top. Hopefully what I can do is hopefully get that ball, and then I can pick up the ball and then try to run again directly, try to get a 3rd touchdown if I'm able to for the most part. And that pretty much ends Orc number 1 for this one. So with the Orc drive over with, we go directly to the top of Skaven player turn number 2. Alright, so that takes us directly to Skaven turn number 2 on this one. So as you can see here, it's actually quite a dramatic movement that ended up happening for this one. So Mondstack, the thrower, manages to move and pick up the ball. This time he's successful when he does it. And as you can see here, he actually decides to move up to the top of the screen directly away from my Orcs, directly to the top of the wide zone, which is actually kind of interesting to see how that pretty much works for the most part. And as you can see, the rest of his team kind of slips through as well. First of all, the rest of the team just kind of scoots up to the top in order to protect Mondstack from being attacked by any of the members of my team that try to move up and try to get him. While that's occurring, as you can see in the wide zones, actually quite a bit of action taking place there in the wide zones. First of all, he's got 1 lineman who's there directly at the bottom wide zone, rolling along the edge. He also has Scythe of Skaven Blight doing exactly the same thing on the top of the wide zone. He's also got another Skaven player up there as well, another lineman that managed to slip through. So it looks like that my friend's trying to go for a really long bomb type pass type situation with a lot of Skaven players in the wide zones, just sending them out forward, which is actually pretty cool. So as you can see here is the top of the close up at the top of the screen. As you can see, he's got one of his blitzers as well as one of his linemen, as well as Scythe the Skaven Blight moving along the top of the wide zone there. And you can see Mondstack there in the bottom left hand corner. And here's a close-up along the center line of the scrimmage. As you can see, his players are trying to keep my players from actually trying to slip to the lines in order to protect his team. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Orcs. Alright, so that takes us directly to Orc turn number 2 on this one, and pretty much I decided to take the offense on this one. I'm seeing that he's got a lot of runners up in the top wide zone, so you can see that I actually kind of send my throwers up in order to intercept. First of all, I end up sending Snip-Ripper Face Speeder, one of my throwers. He goes directly and blitzes into Scythe as Skaven Blight manages to push him directly in the crowd, and he gets a knocked out result because of that. So because of that, his last gun runner is in the dugout, as he's currently knocked out watching birds and stars dancing around his head from the concussion he received from the Savage Orcs who are in the audience stand, which is always a good thing. Now, at the same time that takes place, the rest of my team just kind of moves to intercept. I start moving a couple of my players in order to block his linemen as well as his blitzer in the top wide zone, so that way they can't do anything without trying to escape my tackle zone. While that is occurring, as you can see here, I also send a couple of my Orcs right through the pocket, through the defensive line, directly towards Mondstack. I actually have 2 Orcs right in his tackle zone, and my blocker also moving up through him as well, so that way Mondstack is completely surrounded. While that's occurring, I'm also sending one of my other blitzers around directly to hit to his other thrower as well, so that way I can just kind of scoop around to the left-hand side, get the ball, and then continue the drive to the left and hopefully score a touchdown by it's all said and done. And that's pretty much the plan I'm kind of going with on this one. So here's a close-up of Orc turn number 2. As you can see that my first thrower, Snub Ripper Face Spear, managed to push that Gutter Runner Sky that Skaven Blight directly into the crowd, ends up with a knocked out result, so he is out of the game right now. As you see, the rest of my Orcs kind of intercept his lineman as well as Blitzer to make sure that he doesn't go anywhere. And here's a close-up of Skythas Skaven Blight currently in the knockout box because he just got knocked out stone cold by some Savage Orc fans who were watching the game. And finally, here's a beautiful shot of 3 of my Orc players going directly to Mondstack, the thrower, to make sure that he doesn't run, and at the same time try to interfere with his passing game as best that I can. And that pretty much ends Orc turn number 2. So with that one, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Skaven. And that takes us to Skaven turn number 3, with the most impossible thing ended up happening for this game. Alright, there's a lot of things that really took place here, and it was all kinds of epic. First of all, so, Mondstack, he is the Skaven thrower who currently has the ball in his possession, right? He's completely surrounded by Orcs. So he decides to do a short pass directly to Plague Rule the Infected. Plague Rule the Infected is already to the back left-hand side of the pitch near the Skaven end zone. Now, he does have a couple Orc players in his tackle zones, but he rolls a perfect 6 in order to throw that ball, so that ball goes spiraling at a Mondstack, and Plague Rule the Infected manages to catch the ball, which is perfect. Now, here's where things get really crazy. On the bottom of the screen, as you can see there in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see that one of his linemen made it all the way to the end zone, and the reason why is because originally he was about halfway down the pitch towards the end zone. Ended up being a huge long bomb charge. We're talking about an impossible Hail Mary pass going on this one. But Plague Rule Infected throws it. The throw is good. Goes all the way across the pitch to Corporate, and Corporate actually managed to pick up the ball and catch with a perfect 6. Managed to catch that ball with that long distance Hail Mary pass. And then from there, Corporate decides to move up as quick as he can. He goes for it twice and makes it all the way to my end zone. And touchdown number 1 for the Skaven Blight Scramblers with a impressive long-distance Hail Mary pass between Plague Rule the Infected all the way to Corpenrot as well. Both those guys receiving star player points. Mondstack for the good pass, and Plague Rule the Infected for catching the ball. Then Plague Rule the Infected managed to get another star player point for throwing the ball, and going to Corporate, who gets a star player point for catching it. And he also makes another star player point because he makes that beautiful touchdown all the way to my end zone. It was the most insane thing I've ever seen in Blood Bowl, but it should be expected because this is Blood Bowl after all, and this game has taught us anything, is that you can never expect how the game is going to turn out. So that being said, we reorganize both of our teams ready for the kickoff as I prepare to receive the ball from the Skaven Blight Scramblers. So we go directly to the kickoff. I receive the ball, and once again another riot breaks out in the game, which makes sense because the championship game, multiple riots will break out as fans get a little bit overenthused. So because of that, the turn markers for both of our teams are moved up forward 1 point as everybody kind of settles down as well. And as you see, the ball lands perfectly right next to Snub Ripper Face Beater, right in the middle of my line, so it's a really good destination for the ball. So with that being said, we go directly to Orc turn number 4 to start off this game. Alright, so we go directly to Orc turn number 4, and not much has really happened in the game, and the reason why is because I fumbled the ball. Orc player number 1, Snub Ripper Face Beater, goes to pick up the ball, and unfortunately, I just kind of biffed it. I failed my roll on that one because of that the ball fumbles, and the worst part was I used a re-roll in order to, recorrect that one, but the ball still fumbles. So fumbles over 1 square to the left-hand side, and immediately ends the drive for Orc turn number 4 on this one. So here's a close-up of Snub Ripper Face Beater failing to pick up the ball, and the ball bouncing over 1 square, immediately causing a turnover directly to the Skaven players. Alright, so that takes directly to Skaven turn number 5 on this one. As you can see, Dark Lord Mac decided to take the offense, slipping through my lines and making his way directly to the ball. As you see, he's got a couple of his linemen into perfect blocking positions, also has one of his blitzers slipping through my main line, heading directly to the ball as quickly as he can. Unfortunately, though, for Dark Lord Mac, the turn ends when Scalpific, his Ogre, tried to throw a block directly into Gut Monk Smasher, my troll. Ends up with an attacker's knockdown result instead, so because that Scalpific goes crash to the ground and immediately ends a drive for the Skaven on this turn. And here you can see, here's a close-up of Scalpific going crashing to the ground because he failed to take out Bonk Smasher. As you can see, one of his blitzers just kind of slips to the lines as well, making his way directly towards my end of the end zone. So that being said, we go directly to turn number 5 for the Orcs. Alright, so that takes directly to Orc turn number 5 on this one. So Snedripper Facebeard does manage to pick the ball, and this time he managed to throw the ball directly to Chromgrub Ripsnort, my blitzer, who was in the bottom part of the wide zone. And as you can see there, Chromgrub Ripsnort actually goes for it. Not only does he manage to catch the ball, earning himself a star player point, as well as a star player point for Snedripper Facebeater, he also decides to go for it twice. As you can see there, he's running along the edge of the bottom wide zone, making his way directly to the Skaven end zone as well. Moving up, I think, 8. Yeah, 7 spaces we ended up doing because he decided to go for it twice. And that pretty much ends up the drive for Orc turn number 5. And here's a close-up of Chromgrub Ripsnort as he makes his way as quickly as possibly can across the pitch directly towards the Skaven end zone. So that being said, we go directly to turn number 6 for the Skaven Blight Scramblers. And unfortunately for turn player number 6 for Dark Lord Mac, his turn ends prematurely, and the reason why is because he activates Mondstack, one of his throwers. He tries to blitz directly into Chromgrub Ripsnort, but unfortunately ends with a both knockdown result. Now, my blitzer has the block skill, so he's perfectly fine. However, Mondstack doesn't, so because that he is knocked over, and also immediately ends the drill in that one as well. So because that, not much really happens there. And here's a close-up of Mondstack trying to stop Chromgrub Ripsnort from getting to the end zone, but unfortunately for him, though, he's just not strong enough to take on an Orc Blitzer. So with that being said, it means that ends the drive for turn number 6 for the Skaven, and we go directly to the top of turn number 6 for the Orcs. So with that, we go directly to Orc turn number 6, and the only thing I do is I activate Chromgrub Ripsnort, who goes directly to the end zone and goes for it twice. He actually messed up one of his go for it rolls, so I had to use a reroll in order to make that correction. And he makes it all the way to the end zone, and touchdown number 3 for the Gouged Eye Orcs, as I basically lead the game now at 3 touchdowns as opposed to Dark Lord Mac's 1 touchdown. So that being said, that takes directly to turn number 7 for the Skaven. And at this point that my buddy Dark Lord Mac realized that he won't be able to make up the difference within an amount of 2 times, he decides to call the game early on this one. And as you can see, as the game result ends on this one, the Orcs lead, but win the game with 3 touchdowns, as opposed to this Skaven Blight Scramblers only 1 touchdown. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that takes directly to the end of the game, because this game is now officially over. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That takes us directly to the very first ending of our Blood Bowl campaign, our very first pilot season for our Blood Bowl campaign. So all 7 games have been played. We have played in a round robin formation, and this is what the results were for our campaign. So in the end, the Gouged Eye ended up being the champion for our little league with 3 wins as well as 1 loss. So hooray for my team. Second place goes to Skaven Blight Scramblers with a record of 1 win, 2 losses, as well as 1 draw. And third place goes to the Dwarf Giants with a record of 1 win, 1 draw, as well as 1 loss. And finally, we go to the Reichland Reavers, who finished last in our little Blood Bowl campaign. He ended up being with 1 win as well as 2 losses on that one. So that pretty much does it for this one, ladies and gentlemen, for our very last battle report for our Blood Bowl campaign, and also wraps up our very first pilot season for our Blood Bowl League on this one. So once again, you guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's going to wrap it up for our Blood Bowl League for Tales of the Tackle Zone. You guys stay classy, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.